Good evening, folks. Good evening. Nice to be out here. And I'll request everyone to please put your video as well as your audio on mute so that we can hear. Otherwise, a lot of background noise will be there, right? Okay. Can you please put yourself on mute, your video as well as your audio? It's on the left-hand side of your screen. You will find both these icons for muting it. Please go ahead and mute them, right? Okay. So I'll show myself a little later. So first we will start with this. And okay, so this is me. I just thought I should put a face to the voice. And this is how I generally look like. But post the Corona lockdown, I have a different face. So I'll come on that later when I take on the questions, right? So so thank you so much for just briefly introducing me. So I was about 2.5 decades almost in the army with this in the regiment of artillery, and thereafter I was in the corporate for about more than 10 years. So that takes about 33 years in the service behind me, and in the HR, predominantly in the HR, because army is a HR by nature. It is HR. Right. And then, so in the corporate, I've been, after leaving army, I took a course in IIM Ahmedabad and then joined Harrison's Malayalam. I was here in Cochin for about 2.5 years. Then I moved to Bali and Scientific Games, which is based out of Bangalore and Chennai, and I was heading the Center of Excellence there. Thereafter, I did a small stint with a private-public partnership in Pondicherry, and then took over as head of HR of a company called Mobby at Kachiripadi, again, Cochin. So I'm right now on Always still here, and then I've joined Abinal Management Consultants for human capital management as a specialist there, right? So that's briefly about me. So we will go to the subject perfect, that is the winning at interviews. So you must be wondering, what has Army got to do? How am I qualified as an Army person to take this? Because I want you all to understand that in the Army, every day is an interview day. So we interview our troops whenever they come from leave or they go out, and or when they go from operations, when they get back. So interview is part of our life there. And then similarly in the corporate, in all these years, I've lost count of how many people I've interviewed. So I thought I must share my experience so that you don't have to make the mistakes that a lot of people have done, and you got to learn from others' mistakes, and that's how you perfect yourself, right? So this is essentially what I'm doing for the MBA graduates, the interns, and the management trainees, including people who have already been in the career, because your interviews till the time you totally retire, you will still continue to do your interviews. Even for becoming a CEO or a CO, you still have to do your interviews. That's why it's very important that you understand some of these aspects that we are going to do it. Okay, so interview is part of life. So going to the next one. The secret of interviews, I mean, this is my take. Okay, the secret of interviews is there is a perception that you as an interviewer, you want to employ somebody in a company, so you're looking at a candidate. So, and as an interviewer, you have a perception in your mind as to what is required for that person to be part of your company. Now, as an interviewee, you have a perception about your skill sets, your talent, your experience, and that perception and the perception of that interviewer, both of you, if it matches maximum from the others that have already been interviewed, then that is a person who takes a job. So the perception matching has to take place, and who matches the maximum, that is the person who gets the job, right? So that is the most important thing. That's why I'm highlighting this. Who matches the most takes the job, right? So we will now do what are the things that we need to do the matching, right? Okay. To do that, there are some steps for winning an interview, right? Basically 3 steps. The first is the preparation. The second is the interview process per se. And third is the follow-up, okay? Right. Now, in the preparation, it is the most important of all the 3 steps, if you really ask me. Not exactly just going and doing the interview, that is just a portion of it. What is more important is the preparation that goes behind it. I'll share this with my the experience of 22 decades in the army. The operations are successful because now you don't have a loser. You have to win all the time. If you're a loser, you're either dead or you're seriously injured. So you have to win all the time. And to do that winning in the operations that you're seeing today in the news, the excellence of the army profession is only because of intense preparation that goes behind the organization. You sweat in peace so much that you bleed less in war. That's a saying. And that's why it's so important. And I'm bringing that to the interview table itself. So you got to prepare a lot. And what is the preparation involved? I will take you into that. Okay, we'll go through that. And we'll go through what is the interviews that we need to do. And finally, what's the follow-up? Okay, right. So like I told you, preparation is the key. And are you able to see my screen properly? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Is there any disturbance? There's a display which is coming off the participants in my screen. Is that affecting you guys?
No, everything is fine.
Fine. All right. You can see the full screen. Great. Okay. So in the preparation is the first thing that we are going to do. So it starts with your CV, obviously, right? So in the CV, what I want you to understand is that please update your CV, whether you're going to a next job or not. Okay. You have to always update your CV and put it in the latest month. And when you say updating your CV, you may have done something exceptional in the last month that went by. Put that into your CV somewhere where it matters. Okay, so your CV should always be prepared. Fine. So that's why it's very important to have all your accomplishments in time, and it's always recorded. So your CV has to be updated every time. And now when you get a job, or when you're applying for a job, you get a JD, right? The job description that you get. Now take a copy of your CV, take a copy of the JD, put them side by side. Look at those elements in the JD which is matching with your CV. And if there is something lacking in the CV and there is a JD there which you are very good at, put that in your CV. So every job has to have a JD, and that JD should match with your CV. So putting it in reverse way, your CV should match the JD that the company has given you. That is very important. So every job that you apply for, don't have a standard CV and you keep shooting that CV, spraying it widely wherever some requirement of a job is. That doesn't work. Fine. One of the reasons why I'm saying this is because today a lot of companies, especially the bigger ones, they do this something called the CV tracking. Okay, so they pick up the essential words which are there in the CV, the JD that is required, the job description that requires. The CVs are only picked up if it matches with those words. So if your CV doesn't have those words, you may be much better than what the JD is offering, but you will still not get the job because there is no match there. So you have to stitch every CV to your job description. Right. Then comes this most important thing, researching the company. In my interviews, especially when I joined, a lot of interns and management trainees, I've done both in Scientific Games and Bally as well as in MobMe. I asked them, okay, have you been to our sites? They said, yes, sir. Okay, so in our site, can you just tell me about our company? They just can't go, most of them cannot go beyond 2 or 3 sentences, which means they have just not done their homework. See, your company is looking for a person who's engaged with the company. Now, if you are not doing any research in that, and if you're not able to tell, okay, the interviewer that what you have learned on the company from the website gives you a whole lot of information, the background, the competitors, what is the social media that is being used, how is the social media being used, because today it is a social media. What are the trends, what's the industry, how is the company compared to the industry, what is the culture of the company, is it a flat organization, is it a structured one, right? Is it an old-time company? Some of the old school of thought companies are there. Will you fit in there, right? These are questions that you have to ask. For that, you must know the company. And secondly, there are new ones who come after the 80s, which are predominantly millennials in that, okay? So is that the company that you're liking to go for? That's very important. Then the news, what is the company doing in the news? What's the latest news about that? And who are the C-suite, the CEO, the CEO, the CHRO, who are the business units, okay, the directors, board of directors. You got to go through all that, and it's all available in the company site. If you just drop down menu, so there about us will give you all those details, right? And also the people of the company, are they global, are they regional, are they just local? So those, that also gives you an idea as to whether how you would like to grow in that company. You know, if you want to look for global global stamp and you want to aspire on global roles, then you need to look at companies which has got global signatures, right? Now, the third aspect which I want you to understand is the culture of the company. Why it's important for you to understand the culture of the company. I'll give you an example. See, I'm 57, right? And then when I joined MobMe, I was 55. And MobMe had an average age of around 27, 28. That was the average of the company. So predominantly youngsters, 70, 75. So I was coming from the army. So okay, a lot of discipline. MobMe was a very free culture. It's one of those Ethiopian cultures that you have. You must work in MobMe if you want. It's a lovely company. You can. There is no rules and regulations there. People are only, the only rule that works there is that you have to do your work. That's it. Nothing else. You can come whenever you want. You can go whenever you want. So that was a culture there. A guy coming from the army who's beyond 50, who's seen only discipline, how is he going to be a fit there? So I knew the culture because I understood that. And then I went through 7 stages of interaction. I won't say interview, interactions with the people in the company, the senior management, the middle management, their youngsters, everybody I went through before they said, yes, we want Prem as the head of HR in MobMe. So the importance of understanding the culture, I did a lot of homework there. And then obviously I do think young, and that was one of the reasons why they did accept me. I'm sure if somebody from MobMe is here, they will say yes, if they can put their hand and say yes. Okay, right. Then we come to this dress code. Okay, this is a controversial subject today. A lot of people say it's my quality, it's my talent that is what people should be looking for. Why should they be bothered about the way I dress, right? Okay, you have a point there. It is an argument, no doubt about it. But just remember, when an interviewer or any human being is assessing you, there is a conscious assessment and there is a subconscious assessment. The subconscious assessment is something which is happening without the knowledge of that person. And if you are shabbily dressed, if there are 10 people whom they want to select, and if out of them 8 are shabbily dressed, the 2 will get a better chances of getting looked. Because there's an unconscious decision which is happening. People may be very thinking, I'm very conscious about my decision. They can say all that, but unconscious decision happens. And that's where the dress code matters. So I'll take you through the dress code for a male first, right? So in the dress code for the male, you have 2 things. Today we have something called casual, business dressing, as well as formal business dressing. So a guy in the blue shirt and the black pant, he's wearing a casual business, which is also acceptable in a lot of companies for interviews. And formal ones are ones where you are in the slightly higher in the hierarchy when you're going for the interviews there, or when you are in the marketing or when you're on the customer service, you need to be formally dressed there because you are the face of the company there. So your dressing has to matter there, right? Very simple things. Keep your dress pressed. There should be, your shoes should be polishing. I was appalled when new MBA management trainees coming for interviews with the shoes which is not seen. The shoe does not know what a polish or a brush is. Okay, so obviously I didn't point that out, but then the intention is that you have to be properly dressed. Your shoes should match. There are people who go to the extent of matching the belt with the shoe, the socks matching with the dress, your shirt and your tie and your combination of your jacket, they all matter which color it is. And what you should not do is come casually dressed unless they tell you that you are expected to come casually dressed, unless it's a media company, brand new company, and they want you to come like that. Google once did that. Google said that you please come with a shirt and tie, but you should come with Bermudas underneath, no pants, right? So if you have specific instructions like that, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, it's strictly no. Messy hair, too small. You see the jacket which this guy is wearing, his tie is sticking out of that. It is unsightly. Okay, obviously he's wearing, he's borrowed it from his friend and it's not fitting him. His pant is not matching his jacket. His shoes, you can see the socks. When you are standing, your fall of your pants should be such that your socks are not visible, right? So these are the aspects that needs to be kept in mind. And coming to the ladies, they know better, right? So in the ladies also, you have two types. You have a Western wear, which mostly is acceptable, and also the traditional Indian wear, which is also acceptable, which is a combination. They have a combination there too, fine, which is also fine. So in the ladies dressing, it's that you don't wear too flashy jewelries and accessories, and your dress should be just about adding interest to it. And then the same rules for the men applies to you. Your dress should be smart. And I would advise all the people who are going for interviews, just invest in wrinkle-free shirts. They just press once and you don't have to press again. If you wear pure cotton, there's a tendency for that to get crumbled when you're coming from a car or you're coming from a public transport or in your vehicle and things like that. So invest in a wrinkle-free dress, and that save you a lot of grooming. Obviously, don't go for like how you're going for a shopping. And I was giving an example here. There was a lady who came for an interview for me, and we were looking for front desk. And so she comes in with her cooling glasses on her head. She put it on her head and she comes for an interview. I had to control myself from stop laughing from there. I mean, there's absolutely no idea how to be dressed for an occasion, okay? So here we have examples of salwar kameez and formal shirts and trousers. Obviously, you know what it's avoid plunging necklines, sleeveless and tight fit clothes. It could be a controversy, but then I'm not getting into it. I'm just trying to tell you what is a safer way of dressing, okay? Now, sari is a very graceful dress that we Indians are very proud to have. If you are very good at wearing saris and you look graceful, and then please do. It also depends on what kind of role that you need to play also, okay? Right, then comes to the importance of verbal and non-verbal communication, right? Okay, now why is this important? Have you heard these figures? Anybody, just somebody tell me, have you come across this figure 7, 38, 55? Anybody? Just unmute and then just let me know what is the 7, 38 and 55. Have you ever come across this?
No, sir.
So this is this was a figure, very popular figure during that time, and that was since in the 1970s when Dr. Albert Melby, and he's from the University of California. So he did a lot of research, and he said that 7% of your communication is the only actual content which people perceive. So when you talk to somebody, your actual content is only 7%. 38% is your voice and your tone. That is what is getting registered. And 55% is your body language, the way you stand, the way you dress, the way you hold yourself, where your arms are, where you're looking at somebody. All that is the 50% is the body language that matters, okay? So you will find mostly these, the generals in the army and all these army leaders and all that, they use body language a lot to convey their briefings, because that is the one which inspires people, right? And they know it, and it is something which is inherent in them as the period goes on, fine? So this is something which is important. What I wanted you to understand is that 38 plus 55, that is non-verbal communication that you're conveying. So when you go for an interview, just remember that 7% is actually the content that perhaps now the 7, 38, 55, how much of it is a controversy, which a lot of people were contesting later on. But generally it is the 7%, 38%, 55%, which indicates that non-verbal communication is more than half in any case, okay? So that's why I just felt that you must understand this, okay? When we go for an operations in the army, there's only one thought in our mind. It's not the families, it's not the world behind us, it is not our life, nothing, that we must annihilate, finish the enemy. That's all is there in the mind of every guy when he goes for an operation, when there is war on. Now that is something that you must have in anything that you do in life. So starting with interview, when you're going to enter the interview room, the conference room in which you're going to be interviewed, the moment you put your first step across, there should be just one thought in your mind: I can do it. There should be no doubts of anything else that's coming in your mind. There should be nothing. There's nothing like, will I be able to make it? A lot of people, when you go for an interview, a lot of other candidates are there. You're sitting in the lobby, and then you're finding that some type is there's some people are very showy. They're showing off, and they're they're talking loudly and things like that. And if you're a person who is a little introverted, you should not feel down. Oh my God, so these guys are the ones who are going to make it. Those kind of thoughts should never come to your mind. Whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, whether you are a soft-spoken, whether you're loud-spoken, whatever you are, just one thought that when you get into that interview, it only matters that your best foot is forward, your best talent, your best communication, and you'll say the best thing of yourself. That's all it matters. That is the only thought should enter your mind. Okay? And remember this always, self-confidence, right? The self-confidence, obviously I touched this earlier, that it will be coming from your, the preparation that you've made, okay? So this self-confidence is directly proportional to your preparation. The more you're prepared, the more you're self-confident. When you're prepared in terms of selling yourself well, prepared in terms of understanding the company that you're going to, and prepared in terms of conveying the best possible conversation that you're going to have. So all that will happen when your preparation is very high, and then automatically your self-confidence is geometric proportions, it will increase, okay? And therefore what will happen, you will start believing in yourself. You see that red words, be you. This is very important. A lot of us, unfortunately, most of us when we were young, we felt like aping our stars, our film stars and all that. We somehow start aping some people, forgetting totally that there is a natural you in which people are very much attracted to. If you see Mother Teresa, you take Abdul Kalam, you take any of the leaders, let's take the cinematic examples. Mohanlal cannot be a Mammootty, right? It's not possible. Hema Malini cannot be Kangana, just not possible. There is an appeal in their own personalities, and that is what you find attractive to. So believe in yourself. When you believe in yourself, it naturally comes out as a very attractive person, a conversation that inspires conversation, okay? So this is very important. Confidence is directly proportional to your preparation, and you have to believe in yourself. That's the only way you will succeed, not just interview, generally in life, right? So now we come to the next portion of the interview per se. So far we have talked about the preparation. Now we are going to the interview per se as to what we need to do while we are at the interview, fine? So there are some etiquettes for job interviewing, right? So I'll take you through the etiquettes. First is come 15 minutes early, not earlier. Now why I'm saying 15 minutes is that this is not an experience, okay? You may plan to come 5 minutes early, but then you realize that when you come to the security today, security will check you, you will fill the register there. Then when you come to the reception, you will fill the reception register there. Then your interview will be in the 4th floor. You'll have to go through the lift, which will take time to come. And then there'll be a crowd there. You may not be able to enter that, right? And so you will get tensed by the time you are ready for the interview. So to avoid all that, come early, sit down, relax, have a cup of tea, which they will offer, have a glass of water, whatever you want. Read a magazine, but just come early and just relax, okay? Be polite to the staff. I do this for the people who are, let's say, who are coming as my leaders in my company. When they come, I do this. I ask my security guard, how did this guy behave with you? I ask my receptionist, how is this person coming? Okay, if somebody's coming as an administrative guy, somebody who is supposed to be a people leader, I ask these people, how did they behave with you? Okay, the guy in the car park, how did he behave with them? These things matters a lot. You have to be polite to the staff, right? Because when the interviewer goes out and asks, okay, how did that guy do when I asked the security? Oh, sir, he is great. He is wonderful. He smiled and then he wished me when he went inside. These things matter. Small things, very small things, but they matter a lot. Okay, it could be the deciding factor whether you are in or out. All right, obviously you greet everybody as if you know the person fairly well in terms of they've said who's going to interview you, then you may call them Mr. or Miss. And then otherwise, sir and madam is perfectly fine, and people are very comfortable with that. Okay. Cell phone should be off, not on vibrate mode. It should be off. Nothing is more important to you in the interview rather than you connecting with the interviewer. Your cell phone, you can leave it outside for all that you care, but you are not to put it on vibrate mode also. Okay, strict rule, don't compromise this. Look in the eyes when you speak to the interviews. There may be a panel or there may be a single person. If it's a panel, you shift your gaze from person to person when you give your answer. although one of them must have asked a question. Okay. Now there's a difference between staring and looking in the eyes, right? You have to understand the difference. I'm not going to go and explain you that, but you must know that, okay? You have to look into the eyes. When you're looking into the eyes, two, three things happen. One, you're telling that person that you understood what they're saying and then you are connecting with them. Second, you tend to not lie. When you look down, when you look outside the window or you look away, when you start speaking, these are body language indicators. Those who know body language will know this, that these are indicators that either you are trying to hide something or you're lying about something. Okay. So, or it's the third reason is that clearly you lack confidence to interact with people. So that's the reason why you need to be clear about this aspect. Sit up straight and lean slightly forward. You'll be wondering, what the hell is this? Okay. The reason is, if you sit up straight, it aligns your stomach muscles that brings out your voice in its best natural quality. Okay, and when you lean slightly forward, it shows enthusiasm. That's the reason why this posture is so very important during interviews. And it exudes confidence. When you sit up straight and lean slightly forward, your shoulders are back. You're not drooping. Okay, you're not hunched. That is the reason. If you're drooping or hunched, it indicates a weak personality. Shake hands, not anymore. It's a new normal these days. It's now namaste. And coming to the point of namaste, be assured that this is going to be the form of greeting going forward. Okay, thanks to Corona, this is the way it's going to be. And learn how to do namaste. Unfortunately, a lot of us do a partial namaste or a forgiven namaste. A namaste that does not have any meaning or there is no sense of greeting in that. Do the namaste how the air hostess does when you go take a flight. That's the proper way of doing namaste. And namaste has to be practiced if you have not done it before. A lot of us have not learned how to do a namaste. Frankly speaking, please practice how to hold a namaste and let your eyes and your namaste both speak on the smile, right? I remember my words, your eyes and your namaste should speak on your smile. That is a proper way of doing namaste. Okay, learn that. Men and women both, it applies to everybody now. Let the company take the lead in asking. So when you go there, so there will be a seat for you to stand. You will not sit down till the time somebody asks you to sit down. And once you do that, let them ask the question which they want. Okay, there may be a very uncomfortable silence. Some people are testing you whether you are comfortable with that or not, but that's okay. So do not initiate any questions. Let them ask you. Don't step in the last words of someone. Okay, this is something which is not with a lot of people don't have it, but some people which have it, it's quite irritating. You know, when somebody says, okay, I want to ask, the interviewer is asking a question. I want to tell me, how do you want to take this, you know, it's not finished the sentence. So you interject, you mean take it forward and tell me what all I'm good at? Don't do that. That, you know, adding or finishing off sentence for someone, not correct. Wait until that sentence somebody is asking to finish the sentence before you actually start answering. And it's a good principle to apply in your daily life too. Take notes during interview. It shows a lot of professionalism. Whether you agree with this or not, notes is sometimes why I'm asking you to do this is because sometimes 2 or 3 elements are wrapped in one question. Okay. So when they are wrapped in one question, then you need to know what are those, because when you answer and if you miss out on the other 2, then you are prompting the interviewer to tell you, okay, what about that? That means you're not a good listener. So that's the reason why you need to take notes when you, as they're asking a question, just note down the important aspect. And when you answer, please look at them and answer back. Okay. It's especially, these are aspects which will make you a class apart from the normal, because the issue is winning at interviews. If you've not done all this before and continue to be the way that you are, then you are part of the rest of the lot. But here we're talking about winning at interviews. So you need to do these extra things. Okay. Promptly send a thank you note or email once you get back. Now, a lot of people I know are, even I do that. I carry a small note, which is the thank you note, which we get it in these, you know, Archie's shop and things like that. A small thank you note, which is blank inside. And you know the person whom you have done the interview or the panel. You just write a thank you note there, leave it to the receptionist and tell her that you please hand it over to the so-and-so person. Or if somebody from the panel is escorting you outside, before you leave, just give that thank you note to them, right? Makes a lot of difference, right? Okay, now let's come to what you should not say. Okay, this is equally important, what you shouldn't say at all. Fine. Okay, the first thing that you should do is don't badmouth. Don't say my previous company is hopeless company. They're all miserly people. They don't give me money. For 5 years I worked. They're not giving me a raise. They commit something. They don't do them. My boss is a stupid fellow. He doesn't even know how to talk to people. They're always shouting. She's a very dominating boss that I had. Remember, a person who's saying this will continue to say this in the present company. And all interviewers, you ask any HR people who are sitting here, they know this. A person who's complaining will continue to complain in the same company and will create mess. Even if a person who's skilled, exceptionally skilled, okay, exceptionally skilled in the in say some software, he's very good at Ruby on Rails and things like that. But then if he is a person who's complaining, then he's not going to fit in the team because he's going to have conflict in the team. He's going to have a conflict with his team lead. He's going to have conflicts with anything, and his production therefore is actually counterproductive. So therefore, I will not take a person whose attitude is bad. Clear. So don't talk about, even if this may be truth, this may be the absolute truth. You may be leaving because of a bad boss, because of bad company, because of lousy money that they're paying. But that are not to be told to the new company when you join. Okay. Here is a case where you have to refuse to be a Gandhiji. Right? Don't sound desperate. There may be occasion like cases like Norway, laid off, massive layoffs have happened, and you haven't got a job for 1.5 months, 2 months, 3 years, whatever it is, whatever reasons. Don't get, sir, please give me the job, whatever it is, sir, I will do anything for them. The moment you do that, they know that you want the job and they are not looking at the skills or the value add that you're going to give to the company. For heaven's sake, don't show your desperation, whatever it is. Okay? Always show your skills. How can you add value to the company? That sells better than being desperate. Don't use adjectives, give proof. What I meant by saying is that, sir, I'm very good at people handling. Now, that is no good to a man or beast by saying that I'm very good at people handling. How were you good at people handling? Give examples, right? So I've been very good at people. There were issues in the team. So when I came in as a team lead, I got the team together. There were aspects which was making difference between people. I addressed them individually. Then I brought the team together. So today, earlier there was an attrition of about 15 to 20% in the team. Today, there is absolutely no attrition. After 6 months, I joined the company. Give proof, right? I've been marketing, so marketing was crashing like hell in the company. But then what I did was I got the mapping done of the geography, and I was able to focus where the client are, and then I put my team there, and we increased the marketing percentage by 5% in the following quarter. These are proofs that you're showing that you're good at what you're good at. Don't say, I don't know, I have no idea. See, we're all humans. We don't have to be like the internet. We don't have to know everything. But if you give this impression that I don't know, I have no idea, then you're showing a major weakness. There is something in that which is parallel or similar to what you don't know. For example, if a lady who's going to a customer care of an automotive company, she's going to be the customer care executive there. So the interview, suddenly one of the panelists asked her, okay, tell me, how does the gearbox function in a car? Obviously, this lady is not, she doesn't know what a gearbox, how does it function, the insides of a gearbox. If it was an engineer, you would have said that. But she is not. But then if she says, I don't know, sir, I have no idea, it's gone. But if she had said, so I know the gearbox is the one that moves the car, it gives the differential speeds to the car so that I can move from faster to a slower, or from a slower to a faster speed, and I can operate it by manually, or it can be automatic. Most of the cars come automatic. Now the person understands that this girl does not know what are the intricacies of that, but she is fairly close to what a gearbox is able to do. But if he is probing and saying that, you must tell me how does the gearbox function, and how does the gears function, things like that, she can say that I have given you the best knowledge that I can on the gearbox. Thank you so much. That's it, right? Don't say I don't know and I have no idea. Don't ask them what the company do. If you are asking this question in sometime in the middle of this, that means you're just not prepared. You are out here itself. I mean, thereafter, if I am a wise interviewer, I'll say, thank you so much. You've been very nice for spending time with us. And is there anything that you have to ask from me? And then I'll ask the person to go. Never ask, what does this company do? Okay, you should have known that before you enter the room. Now we will come and touch some frequently asked questions, right? A lot of questions which are commonly asked, irrespective of whichever it is. There may be some technical questions which are specific to that role. I'm not touching that. I'm talking about generic questions which generally people ask, and for that, how you got to prepare, right? So in this, the first question which most everybody asks is, tell me more about yourself. Okay. The reason why is this is because firstly, it keeps the conversation going. It breaks the ice between the interviewer and the interviewee. So it's very important that you sell. This is your first selling point. Tell me about yourself. So you should prepare this at home when this question comes. And how to prepare this and how to answer, I'll just tell you how. There are 3 basic steps to answer this question. It's a 3-step formula. The first step is you got to tell them who you are. 3 to 5 awesome points about you. Okay. So now in this, you should say that, I'm very good at people handling person, and or I'm a team building person, or I'm very good at negotiating. If you're not none of this because you don't have an experience, I'm a HR manager I've been an assistant manager for the past 6 years. You got to start like that. Or if you're an MBA graduate, you just say, I'm an MBA graduate from so-and-so institute, and I've just finished my graduation, and I'm looking forward to, to do a great job as far as customer service is concerned, or as marketing is concerned. Something which is awesome about you. Lot of people say, sir, I studied in this one. I'm coming from this particular place. I have my parents, my wife is there, and I have 2 children, a newborn child. It's a very cute child, sir. And nobody's interested in that. That's fine. It's very good. It's awesome that you have a great family or a great background. But they are concerned about job. They're asking you why you're a fit in this job. So you got to start like that, who you are, right? So you start from there. So basic, if you've done a PhD, you've done some very good course recently, which can enhance, you've done something on AI, says that I'm an MBA graduate and I've done AI and HR to understand how HR can function in the AI atmosphere, in the AI environment. You start off like that, okay? And then the second thing that you need to do is step 2 is, why are you qualified for this job? You give out your accomplishments, you give out your performance. So there was a and when I was the HR manager for the past 6 years, there was multi-location events which I organized. I spearheaded doing that. Or you can say that, then I had reduced the attrition by about 10%. And if you're in the customer service, you can say that. So the customers, I got an appreciation for customers with an NLP scoring of more than 8, at least 75%, things like that, right? And the third thing is that you should say why you're here. You're looking for a challenge. Are you looking for enhancing your skills? Are you looking for a global, today you've been working with a regional company, you want to go expand yourself, do a global exposure. This company is giving you that opportunity. So you're saying, am I looking for a global exposure? You give out that. So when you cover these 3 steps in your answer, tell me about yourself. That's what it is. Don't try and rattle out your CV. They already have it. Don't try and rattle out your past experience of your children, childhood, and things like that. It doesn't matter at all. Okay. So let's go to this question and answers that you have. Typically, some of these questions that you will get, I will also handle this. How do you need to do that? How do you handle stress and pressure? What's your greatest weakness? What motivates you? Describe your work style. Right? What are your passions? These are the questions that people ask you. Now, there are something called behavioral questions, right? Just give me a minute. Thank you. So there are something called behavioral questions. Okay. So behavioral questions is questions that ask you about a situation. So you have to answer that using the STAR technique. Now, this is a technique which has been used by, if you go to your videos and YouTube videos on what is STAR technique, there are a whole number of them. Now, this technique, STAR technique, is a very useful technique. Just mug it up and then keep practicing about 5 to 6 situations and how you want to respond to them. The first is you must give out a situation. So let's say they asked you, I'll take out my own example when I was head of HR head of administration in Harrison's. So the situation was that we were running very high electrical bills in the in the corporate which is there in Wellington Island. So the situation was we got to reduce electricity bills, right? So I went into there's a godown also there. So I went to the godown, huge godowns, lot of tube lights because they were dark. Lot of tube lights. The situation was it was dark, and so there were a lot of tube lights. So if I can reduce the tube lights, I can save electricity because they were on during the day. As it explained to me was to reduce electricity. The situation is here is electricity that needs to be reduced. The task is how do I reduce it? The third thing is action. Okay, somebody is scrolling on the screen. Can you make out? Who is doing it? Please don't do it. Yeah, just delete that pen that you're using, pen or the highlighter that you're using, and just remove that, right? And then the third thing is that what action you're doing. So what I did was I removed it was this asbestos, sheets on the roof. So I removed those asbestos panels in between, about 15, 20 of them per godown. And then we had about 5 godowns there, and we removed all of them. So you had natural daylight coming into it. You don't need those tube lights. So that was the action. So I reduced the electricity bills by close to around 25 to 30,000 per month. Just from the godowns alone, right? So that is a start technique that I use to explain to the next company as to how I've been able to. They asked me, okay, tell me one challenge that you have handled. So I use the start technique. I said, situation, yes, electricity was being high, and what is the task that is requiring how to reduce electricity? So what is the action I took? I removed those roof tiles out and then put those transparent ones, and then the action, I got the result of the result is I got saved by about 25 to 30,000 per month, right? So that's how you go about doing that. Fine. Use this technique in all your questions, which is behavioral or which is like this. Fine. Now, if you have noticed, I've answered this question as a story. I told them a story actually. When you tell your answers as part of a story, you have to believe this. Okay, it sticks in the mind of the interviewer, how you said it. If I said that I have reduced 25-30% by doing modifications in the godown, the 10 other people will say something similar to that. So it's not registered. But when I told it as a story, that is sticking to the mind of the interviewer. Okay, so it's practice telling story. Do it at home. Close all your bedrooms, cupboards, everything. Sit in front of the mirror and start practicing. That's the only way you can do well. Right? So I've highlighted that once again, practice telling your story. Fine. Some of the most questions, I'll just quickly walk through this. Right? So firstly, somebody will ask you, walk us through your resume.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Can I have one more or two more example regarding this STAR technique we can use while doing the interview or taking the interview for the HR prospects? Because we are in HR, might be we have to go for the interview as well. So, my agenda is to understand how to, taking interviews is simple, but giving interviews is always a different mindset. So I appreciate if we can share a couple of more examples for this.
On which particular, any particular question that you want me to have, or all these questions?
Anything for the behavioral, for the STAR technique, if we can use it while giving the interview for the HR.
Okay, fine. So
HR to HR. So if I'm in HR, I'm going for an interview and someone asked me about behavioral questions. So as a HR person, what questions or answers we can proceed?
Okay, fine. So I'll just go to the previous one. I'll take you on that slide. Okay. Now let me take an a sample question of a HR situation, right? So this was asked to me that when I was in the HR, so they asked me, okay, when you were a head of Center of Excellence, give me one challenging situations that you had which you handled it. So I told them a story this way that okay, fine. So this was when we did a merger. Okay, the situation is that when we did a merger, when Scientific Games became part of it, so suddenly there was a requirement of recruiting at least 400 people in next 2 months. Okay, the 400 has to be in the lower levels. I'm talking about graduates or trainees. At that levels, we wanted people, engineers, software engineers at that level. So we had the task of getting 400 people to be done. That was the task, 400 people to be recruited. And that was the time when it was sometime in May, June. That's the time when these colleges were just free. So the action that I did was immediately got my recruitment team. So we were in Bangalore, and and we were in Chennai. We were also at that time in Pune. So we told the recruitment team, go and meet, speak to all the institutes that you have, get hold of the those teams, what you call those committees that are there which do the recruiting, get there and speak to them in the next 2 or 3 days, and make sure that we reach out to them, call them for interviews during the weekends, right? So we had massive chain of these kind of invites going to all the 3 locations and getting people to come to the interviews during the next 3 or 4 weekends. So all of us worked. We didn't take leave at all during that. The second month, we shot it by around 200 to 225, if I remember right. We actually shot 400. Okay. So we were able to do that because we focused on what was required and then we just addressed it. So that is an example of a STAR technique that I used. I created the situation. Situation was that there were immediate massive requirements to be, recruitments to be done. And the task was to figure out 400 that needs to be achieved in 2 months. And the action that I took was to focus on deliberately on these aspects itself. And finally, the results was we achieved beyond what the target was, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Who asked the
Thank
question? I'm
you
not
so much. Because sometimes we do the daily because it's a continuation work, so we always forget how to explain to the other person if we go for an interview. So yes, the daily routine, the example you have given to us. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Right.
Hi, Prem.
Yeah.
Prem, this is Shruti here. I think few of the questions are coming through chat. So if you can have a look over there, or Biju, if you can help Prem in that.
Yeah, sure, I will do that. Actually, I have sent in
Okay.
the chat now.
All right, fine. So can we do one thing? Some of the questions that I can send, thank you Prem, for your time, insights, recruitment. Can you please share some examples how gracefully, okay, these questions I'm answering them, right? I'll come to these questions. Can you please share some examples of areas of appreciation and areas of improvement which do not feel clear? Okay, so in some of these examples of areas of appreciation, that's a strength, and then areas of improvement. Say, for instance, if you're very good at handling people, but then you are short-tempered. Okay, these are questions that is coming there, which is just most favorite questions that I'm going to ask you. These will get answered there. And can you please share some insights in the biases that occur in the interviews and similar to confirmation, hello, horn, and anchoring biases, right? This is a questionnaire which comes from the questioner's point of view, fine? So this is something which is off this targets because, but I'll just quickly handle this. See, the halo is only once you are having an opinion in your mind that these are the aspects that I'm looking for. And if that person does not fit into that thing, and then you are, straight away rejecting them. Okay. So these are biases which are by subject by itself. Maybe later on I can handle this one, right? Right now, I would run out of time on the topic. So I will address only those questions which is affiliated to this topic, fine? Then your perspective on ATS friendly CV resume formats to be addressed, sourced by recruiter if they use job portals. Okay, what I found was in the ATS friendly, see, when it comes to taking appointments which are very people connected, which are human connected, I found ATS a misfit there. ATS is not a solution. There, it is physical browsing to the CVs or the resume that is more important. Okay. Now, here, let me kill one more doubt, which a lot of people, especially the graduates have, is what's the difference between a CV and a resume? A resume is a very small version or a condensed version of a CV. It goes into maybe 5 or 6 pages, and it is in detail. CV actually started with academicians. They are the ones who used to fill a lot of information on their academics, what they have done. So that's why it used to be called CV. And a resume is just 2 pages. In fact, it is just 1 page. It is okay if it goes to 2 pages. It just concises everything, your education, your achievements, your highlights, experience, everything into one format. So that is what is there. So just quickly digress it to let you know this. The experience of job portals and Naukri and LinkedIn, I have no idea how they are able to successfully do it because I have no visibility in how they're doing it. But in ATS that I familiarized with somebody was that I didn't find it very convincing unless you're looking for very essential people in large numbers, right? if you're looking at, say, your, say interns, for examples, things like that. But for for middle and higher, I always found it has to be, CV board that is manually going through it. Can you please share examples of how to gracefully justify a gap in employment? I'll again cover this. This is coming in my questions. And then can you please share examples, appreciation is coming there. Can you please share insights into the biases that occur? Okay, fine. Just we've handled this. Right, now coming to, okay. I get completely involved in the presentation, so I really don't digress myself to go into the chat. So that's the reason I will address the chat just before I wind up. There is a question and answer session that I'm going to come to. You can please ask me there in case if I missed it, right? Okay, so walk us through your resume. These are people who will tell you because they've not gone through the resume, or they just want you to say how good did you prepare it, or somebody else prepared the resume for you, right? So that's one. So just go through only the essentials, just essentials, and you should be over within about 2 to 3 minutes. You should be able to cover your basic education, what you've done the last company, most meat of it, and then what you are very good at, the second meat of it, and then wind up, right? Then this is a question which came in the chat. Why is there a gap in your resume, right? Now, this gap could be for many reasons. It could be personal reasons. It could be because some medical emergency happened. You could be on maternity leave, or it could be so many reasons are there. Always explain why the gap is and be truthful about it. The reason is because today a lot of companies do background verification, and if they find that it is not gelling with what they have found out, then your integrity is at question. Okay. So just tell the truth as to why there is a gap, or you just got fired, or you just got thrown out. I mean, there was a layoff in the company, so there was a gap of about 6 months, 7 months. What is more important here is, what did you do in the gap to enhance your skills? I read a lot of these kind of books. I did these online courses. I did this while I was on maternity leave. I was also I caught up on reading. I was connecting with my colleagues to find out what is happening during the it's in the business, things like that. I used to ask for the presentation, what happened in the review. So I used to go through and keep myself updated. Fine. So that's how you address that gap in the question. So then next question which most people ask is, why are you the best person for this job? This is a straight sell point. You got to tell them why you're best. Just enhance on all the qualities that you're very good at, giving examples. That's how you address this question. Where do you see yourself in next 5 years? This question is, a lot of people when I asked this question told me, sir, I don't know what is the growth plan in the company, but I will handle it, sir. Once I come to the company, I will see that. I just asked him, what prevented you from asking this question from anybody in the HR, that what is the growth in the company before you came for the interview? I plainly asked that person. You got to know what is the hierarchy, where are you, what is the position that you're going there, how long will it take for you to go to the next one, what is the company practice, right? You got to do your homework, and you must be, and this also question also answers to the interviewer whether you're ambitious or whether you just want to be just a passenger who just floats, okay, who just travels. There are some people who are okay to just do the same job till the time retirement. In the Industrial Revolution, that was the norm. Okay, you used to wait for your golden watch after 25 years and used to wear it and go. But today, that's not the case. Today, you have to continuously upgrade, continuously be technology savvy, and that's how you got to keep improving. So they just want to know whether how you're going to do yourself next 5 years. This explains that question. Fine. Tell me how you dealt with as a tough challenge. I answered this already to the use the STAR, method of answering this question. Any tough challenge that you had, you suddenly found that, your team of 4 or 5 members had drop off for some reason because there was a looming, layoff that is rumoring around. How did you handle that? Okay, things like that in the start. For want of time, I got a lot of examples. You can reach out to me later. I will give you our coordinates. I can give you how to handle it. You can give me a situation. I'll tell you how to handle that through the STAR one. Okay. What are your weaknesses? Yeah, this was also one of the questions which I asked you. What are your weaknesses? We are human beings. Understand? Everybody understands this. We will all of us have weaknesses. What is more important here is that having identified your weakness, what are you doing to overcome it? Okay. So I'll tell you what my weakness is. I'm a very short-tempered guy, right? I have a passion for perfection. Any job that needs to be done has to be perfect. If it is not perfect, I just blow my top. That used to be my weakness, right? It was okay in the army because people accepted that. There was no way out. But that's not case in the corporate. So what did I do to that? So I used to make myself, my expectations very clear to my people who are working in my team. For example, there is a presentation that requires to be done every month, and then I don't accept mistakes there. There are no commas in the figures, right? If they're not aligned, fine. The color scheme is different. If people are yellow in one slide, they become blue in the second slide. I don't like that. So I tell people what is my expectation. So then they are very clear what is it, and say they're able to meet that. So I've been able to overcome my weakness of, losing my temper for not making my expectations clear. I've been able to overcome that, right? And then tell me about the time you ran that extra mile. Okay, I read this somewhere. I think it was in Dr. Reddy's laboratory. Somewhere I read this. So there is a poster in which a person is running and the road is empty, and says, when you run the extra mile, there is no traffic jams. It made an impact on my life from thereafter. If you do something, if there is a work that requires to be done, there is one way of doing it, just do the work. There's another way of doing it, add value to the work. If you're doing the work just the way it's required to be done, then if your boss is telling you, okay, just do this also and bring it back, and again you're going to do this also and bring it back, that means you're just doing the work that is only you're not adding value to the work. All right. And to add value, you have to go the extra mile. Fine. So that is what it means by going the extra mile. So to make sure that there is no comebacks to you. Fine. Firstly, you understand what is the requirement, then you add value on that, and then you put that. So that's what it means. Do you have any questions for us? Don't say, I have no questions. Okay, either you are super intelligent, or you are very good at mind reading, or you have no interest. You just came for the job for the heck of it. These are the only three possibilities when somebody asks you this question. There is no fourth possibility. Fine. I'm just talking this out of experience. Okay. So if somebody asks, you ask, okay, what does it happen? Or what does this role help me to, take this next level? Will I be able to handle these kind of roles with this kind of skills that I want to learn in this company? So that they show that you have an interest in coming to do something different. You want to add value. So they will be able to add something to you when they answer the question. Okay, somebody is freaking out on the pen. Please delete. Okay, how to get a job when there is no experience? This is predominantly for people who are, MBA graduates and interns and all that. So obviously you have no experience, but how do you still get a job, right? Or this is also for people who they say, okay, we want people with 10 years of experience, right? You're an HR person, you're going to another HR job, and they've asked for 10 years of experience, but you have only 6 years. So how do you fill that gap? So that's the difference. Firstly, understand the difference between what is qualified for a job and what is the experience required for a job. Okay, qualification is something that is you learn. Experience is something which is basically application of what you learned. So you must understand, that's why they're asking you that we want somebody who's got 10 years of experience, right? So that's the reason. You must understand this reason when you're able to address the job requirements, right? What you should do, you should take an inventory of your skills. Let us say you're an MBA graduate. So you're very good at extempore speaking. You're good at debates. You're good at public speaking. Fine. Make a skill of that. You're very good at, say, English, or you're very good at Malayalam, whatever it is. So you make those, list out those skills. Fine. And you connect it to the job and say that you're good at these things and how this will help you fill up in that job description that they gave. Show transferable skills. I'll give you my example. Coming from the army, highly disciplined. So how is that role going to fit as a head of HR in a company, right? So I tell them that this company requires Harrison's Malayalam is a very process-oriented company. So army is definitely highly processed. Everybody knows what they're required to do. You don't have to give extra instructions at all. Everybody knows. That's because there's very high level of processes there. So I told them that how those level of process meticulousness that is required there, and how do you take a feedback, every constant ongoing feedback to make sure that you achieve your task. I transferred that into an example as a head of HR, that if I have a recruitment drive happening, how do I handle that? What is the process that I will put in place? How do I get the feedback? How do I do the course correction in that one? So that is how I explained it to them, right? So that's the way where I can show my transferable of my skills. A skill set there is a skill set here. but only the context is slightly different. Okay, fine. Educate yourself. Fine. So this is a period right now. We all of us been 21 days, more than that. We've been away. This was a time for us to educate. A lot of webinars, a lot of online courses. Do yourself with this one, and then tell them that you did all this to enhance your qualifications, to get more experience, give opportunity for more experience. Put your language that way. That gets listened to. Okay. Finally, connect the dots. There is a job description, there is an experience, there is a qualification. You connect those dots there to tell them this is how you're able to fit into that experience. You say that, okay, I've got only 6 years experience, but I've handled a team of 20 people. Fine. And I've handled a team which is and consisting of a mix of a lot of HR portfolios. It's got attrition, it's got recruitment, it's got employee engagement, it has got everybody. There's just 1 or 2 people in that. Now you're going to a team which has got 50 people in multi-locations. So you say that your ability to be in the past company, because it's a global exposure, so you're able to connect globally across multi-lingual situations. So therefore, you're easily, that experience gap of 10 years is not an issue, but with 6 years experience itself, you can fill that up, right? That is how you connect the dots there. Okay, now coming to closing the interview. So when you know that it's just, they'll say, okay, it's about fine, I think we are done with it. Then ask them that, have you got what you wanted to know from me? This shows that you're in earnestness, that as a HR, you are telling the HR interviewer that, these are the skills that I have. Is that enough for you? Is there something that you need to know more? Okay, you're asking that question directly. Indirectly, it is hinting you, where do you stand in that interview? Fine. Then you ask them, what are the next steps? When will there be a next level? How long will it take? Or how many rounds of interviews are likely to be there? When is the thing likely to be closed, and things like that. Then finally, don't forget to say thanks. Thank each member of the panel if there are more of them, right? And say thanks to them. And thank the staff who hosted you. Probably somebody from the reception would have taken you to the conference room where you did the interview, or somebody would have guided you maybe from the car park or the vehicle park to the place. Please thank them once you've done when you go back. Okay. Your interview is not over till you leave the premises. You know why I'm telling you this? I was doing an interview in Chennai, and we were in the 7th floor, right? So the guy who interviewed, he got out, and then there's a garden out there, and then this guy comes out after finishing the interview. He takes out a cigarette, he smokes. No harm in smoking, nothing wrong. But firstly, it's a place where there is a no smoking zone somewhere else, but he didn't bother to ask. Then secondly, after smoking, he just threw that into the dustbin without even stubbing that cigarette. I will not have this guy in my place. Clear, whatever he is good at. Because if he doesn't have the basics, there's no point keeping this guy in the company, right? Because he could be a safety hazard. He could throw this in the dustbin when people are left the office and he's working late. There could be a fire hazard, right? The last is follow-up. Okay, this is very important in the follow-up. Sorry, the follow-up is when you get back, you write back a mail thanking the people. Then you, after a certain period of time, you check back where is the interview heading for. What are your chances? Like, these are things that is, so you're constantly engaged. Don't wait for the HR guys to come and tell you that when should you be. You ask them yourself all these questions, right? I want to touch about virtual interview before I close this. This is because today we are doing a lot of online, sometimes it's on the phone, or sometimes it's on the Zoom or GoToMeeting or any other format. But there is a difference between real face-to-face and online or virtual interviews that are going to happen. Now, virtual interview is going to be the in thing going forward, right? How do you make that human connect there? Because human connect is the one that will ultimately sell whether you need to be with that company or not. So to do that, firstly, you've got to show your enthusiasm. See, when you smile, that smile gets reflected in your voice. I mean, it is just try that. You can ask some friend of yours to do it. Its smile gets reflected in your voice. Okay, watch your posture. If I'm speaking on the phone, I put the phone on a speaker mode and then I put my arms down like this and I speak. You'll see the difference in my voice. Those of you who are clear will understand because I'm drooping. My voice is changed. But if I am sitting straight, the voice is taking a different tone altogether. So that's why you have to watch your posture. Change your voice. See, I am very deliberately speaking. Deliberately, I did not go into the video mode because I know you will not concentrate. You will keep looking at me there, how I'm saying, rather than on the slides. I want you to concentrate on the slides. That's the reason I'm doing the time. So I'm making my voice very deliberate. Okay, do that. And finally, dress professionally. You will see that. When you dress professionally, instead of sitting in t-shirts with a round neck or a V-neck or a Bermuda and give your interview, you're undoubtedly you will become casual in the way that you're talking. Okay, and casualness is certainly not appreciated by anybody, whatever role that you are. Okay, so that is why you need to dress professionally. And then never interrupt, because you do not know, you're not face to face, you do not know when that person is finishing a sentence. So wait for that person to finish a question or a sentence or something, wait a couple of seconds and before you answer, right? And while they're asking a question, if it's a longish question, you give some kind of a response that you are listening. They do not know whether the call is dropped or not, right? So that you have to do. That is different from waiting to answer before you do that, okay? And don't be eager to talk all the time, right? Speak when you're spoken to. Very basics, but we all forget this, okay? So just remember these things, practice this at home, practice this with your colleagues, and that's the only way that you can polish yourself. Then have a list of questions to ask, and that will help you a lot, right? Okay, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. This is what I said, that if you don't get selected. You make an assessment of the interview and you don't get selected. It's okay if you don't get selected, because there could be so many reasons which are beyond you. They'll not be part of you, right? So then you need to, you may not have an idea of that. So you have to make an assessment of yourself, what went well and what did not, and how you can go on improving on that. So some of these aspects we covered in the questions, and so you are aware of how it can be done. So you got to practice that, practice in front of a mirror, and then go ahead and do that. Call up the person who has organized the interview, thank them for the opportunity. This is very important. A lot of people don't do this. They thank them for the opportunity, request them to share why you could not make it for that, or what are the areas of improvement which you can, so that you have a better chances during next time, right? Let me tell you, some of us in our HR professions, most of us are here and that, we really do not get back to an employee if they're rejected. It's a very bad practice, frankly speaking. Be polite enough to get, they've spent time and come to you for an interview. But if you're rejected, tell them that they did not make it, and we would like to see them do better next time. It's always important that you do that, right? So in that question comes that it's always good for you to ask, if you've not made it, what could be the areas that reason why you've not made it. Sometimes they will tell you it's confidential, we do not want to share, leave it at that. Okay, fine, they do not want. But sometimes you might get an insight as to what was the reason why they did not. Don't argue with that person, don't justify now. Just take that feedback and see how best you can improve that, okay? And then you close with an opportunity to push in. Just say that, okay, you rejected me, okay, to go to hell, I mean, I'm not interested in the company. No, make it positive, tell them that, okay, fine, so this is fine, but if you do get an opportunity in the future, please reach out to me. I'm delighted to be back to the company to be part of the team, right? That's how you close it. Getting depressed or feeling sorry is not an option. Is not an option. That's all I'm saying. Therefore, improve yourself is the correct option and the only option. Okay, so keep this in mind, be positive. Okay, don't let negativity creep in. Even if you 3 or 4 interviews that you've been and it didn't work out, always find lessons to learn from each of them. Fine. Okay, Jack Ma, you know how many times he has failed before he became the CEO of the world's largest company? I don't have to give you the example, you know it. Right, now I come to the question and answer session. So let me go back to my video. I'll just start the video. Right. Yeah, any questions that you want to ask, you can shoot.
Hi, Prem. I have a question. So I'm Aparna. So I just wanted to ask you, if we have a very short tenure with a company, is it good that we add it in the resume, or is it not good that we add it in the resume?
No, so when you say short, can you just give me some figure for me to explain that?
If it is like about a 2 months or 3 months period, and you are in a position to move from the company, So is that good if you add it in the resume, like for a 3 months time or something?
See, the reason is that if you have done something else during that time, something which is not working out, or something that is for the reason, I'm not saying that it could have been you had been let go, or that there was some issue or something like that. So then you need to think about how that needs to be covered up, because in your background verification, if you mention that in your CV, it will get asked. But if you don't mention that, you leave it as a gap, and then if you go out, it's fine. But then the question that will come up is that if you have applied in that company or joined them, then there is a requirement of taking a relieving from them, right? Unless you can ignore that relieving. If you can ignore that relieving, if it's not making implication, and you have a relieving letter of the previous one, then that is a safely you can ignore that. But if it's a longer gap, say 6 months and something like that, then you must have a reason to justify why you're leaving. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any more?
Hi, this is Swedish. I'm basically from Chennai.
Okay, Sunish. Yeah, what's your question, Sunish?
Okay, how important is while attaching with the resume? Is it required, or just a resume would be fine?
Sorry, Swinish, your voice dropped in between. Can you come to a place where you can, the reception is better? Or somebody who's heard him, can you please explain what the question was? Okay, Swinish,
I was asking about the cover letter.
Okay, cover letter. Okay, how important is the cover letter, right? Swinish, that's your question. How important is the cover letter when you send a resume?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Swinish. I'm not
Excuse me, could you please put that in the chat, so it will be more better.
Yeah, okay. So Swinish, just put in the chat while I can take some other question meanwhile, and then I'll take a look at that. Can we go to the chat? Let me see if you've put that question in the chat.
Hello, Prem. Session was really insightful. I have a question for you. How could you justify the employment gap and education backlog?
Okay, so so this was a question which came from. Okay, let me answer the question, Swinish. Swinish, I got your chat. Then before I go, then I'll go to the question that asked subsequently. I was asking about the cover letter. You got it correctly. Importance of covering letter and resume. Okay, covering letter is giving you a gist of what you are going to be in the resume or the CV that you're going to follow. So some companies ask for a covering letter. That is if you're directly interacting on an email. But some companies, when they have a format, they may not have a format in a covering letter. So your CV or your resume is good enough there. Okay, but if you're asking for, usually I found that covering letters are when you are going in for a leadership role. Maybe it's a lead or a junior leadership, or even a middle or a higher leadership. That's where the covering letter matters. So in the covering letter, that's the first selling point of why you are fitting into the role that they're looking for. So that way, covering letter has to be a gist, and it has to be crisp. You have to come to the point straight. So it's like how you do the composition in the, in your school when you did that, right? You had 3 paragraphs and you had to reduce it to 1 paragraph, the complete content. It's something on those lines. So you got to do that, fine? Now you will thank your English teacher as to why they made you do the composition, right? Okay, there was one question which came from the lady. Who was that? On the gaps, she was asking on the gaps.
Yes, I'm Swati.
Swati, yeah, tell me, you're asking on the gaps?
Yes, could you please justify the employment gap and education backlog in interviews? Like how you, yeah.
So I'll take the employment gap. See, like I told you in one of the questions, that was one of the questions which is in the most favorite questions as to why there is a gap. Okay, so in the gap, it's natural. So there could be so many reasons for that gap. So there are the gap could be because you left the job because of some emergency, like I told you, or it could be some, you wanted to relocate to some other location because you had to take care of your family, or it could be because they let you go, or it could be because they fired you typically. And then it's because before you went to another company, there was a gap of say more than 6 months. A gap ideally would be which is more than 6 months or more than a year is a gap, or anything beyond that, right? You must always say why the gap is. Be frank about it, be honest about it, and tell them what you have done during the gap to value add yourself. So I'll give you an example that when I left MobMe because I was not keeping well, I was quarantined. This is about 2 years back. I left MobMe as a head of HR. So I was quarantined. I couldn't meet people. So I obviously, HR, you can't meet people, right? So I left. Thereafter, I didn't seriously look because I was making my, concentrating on my home that I just now created where I'm speaking from, right? I'm speaking from my home. So I spent my time there. And then in the meanwhile, I did a lot of learning. I realized there were a lot of gaps in my profession of 30 years. I wanted to understand what artificial intelligence has got to do with HR. So I did a course, online course on artificial intelligence and HR. And today I realize why it is not so easy to talk about artificial intelligence in HR. What are the challenges that is there, right? So that has enabled me. Then I did a lot of. Hello.
Yes,
So
thank you, Prem.
Yeah, that's how it is. Now coming.
Yeah, and like as you talked about the artificial intelligence, what is your perspective on ATS-friendly resume formats which help candidates to be sourced by recruiters if they use job portals, AI, like artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I touched on this. I touched on this question earlier too. See, what I found out in the ATS is that it is looking for those words. Okay, so till the time that words don't match, that it does not, bring in that the right candidate in the front, because it will throw up those CVs only which match that. Now, if I'm looking for, let me say I'm looking for somebody who is good at, I'm looking at as a HR. I'm talking as a HR person. I'm a recruiter. I'm looking for somebody who's a good team lead, because I have a team of 30 people who are very good at, who got multiple skills as far as software is concerned. So I have a team, and so because they got multiple skills, so there has to be some specifics as far as team that leader is concerned. So I'm looking for those skills, that is software skills that person should be aware of. I've listed that out. That ATS will pick that up, but it will not pick up the team management skills that is there, because that person in his CV would have only mentioned about what team they've handled. But I'm looking at somebody who is very good at team management as well. That will not pick out. So I lose out on a person who's very good at that, but who did not mention in the CV. Whereas if there is a CV which comes to me and has handled a team, I am in a position to ask that person, if I'm going to the TV manually, I'll be positioned to put it aside, ask that person, okay, you handled a team of 30, tell me how you did it. Whereas at ATS would have rejected that CV. So I feel that unless it is very mechanical, unless the job is asking for very basics, that 2 or 3 skills that is easily pickable and not much people skill is not required, then it's okay for this application tracking. But I'm not a great fan of application tracking at all.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So is it good to add skills which you are not best at the moment, but earlier you have worked on it, like program skills you were good at, or when you were in college, but now you're applying for an HR post and you're not good at programming now? See, you could do that as part of your passion. Now that you have a lot of time, keep some amount of time for, let's say if you're able to devote 6 hours on learning something new, you keep 2 hours for your passion on programming. That's your passion. I can make out from your question that it's a passion that you had. Do that for as part of your passion, and as part of your HR skills, do something that can enhance your HR skills. By the way, if you're very good at programming and if you're a HR guy, you are the right guy for a software company, because you are able to understand very well all the programming skills that come. See, most people in the HR in the software company has to keep a technical guy next to him to ask the technical questions. Whereas you are a programmer, you're good at programming, you would be a great asset in a HR role. That's the way I'm looking at it. Okay. Ayub? Okay. That was your question. Yeah. Any more? I think if there's any more questions, I can take that on. Otherwise, we have overshot, I think. I have finished in time. It's a questions, and I'm delighted that there are a lot of questions. Okay, Biju, I think that's it, right? So Biju,
yeah, Prem, what we need
Okay, well, Vijay's
okay,
voice
Vijay,
is breaking.
Actually, one of the guys asking a question. Mr.
what was
Sinish
the
Prem.
question?
Yeah, Prem, I was asking, shall we get the soft copy of the presentation?
Okay, Richard, let me go to your question. If you have asked this earlier, your perspective at ATS, some examples which you, I'm not able to see. Have you, okay, no. So Viju, you said, please answer the previous question in the chat. Which is it that you're referring to, Vichitra?
Sir, Prem sir has asked some questions.
Viju, do you know which is the question is referring to?
Just a moment, I'll check.
Or Vichitra, because Vichitra, if you can ask me the question, I can answer you that.
So I couldn't find that question in the chat.
Okay, there is one interesting question which says that isn't it better to say I don't know rather than bluffing? Okay, let me clarify that. This is Sandra Johnson. Sandra there? Okay, so it's the question which she asked, isn't it better to say I don't know rather than bluffing? See, there is a you're not bluffing. When I answered that question, when I said that you're not saying I don't know pointedly, but you're answering something similar to that, you're saying that what you know, what best that you know on that question that has been asked. So you're not bluffing there. You're actually telling them an answer. Fine. That is what I meant. You're not trying to bluff there. So please, if that was the idea that I gave, that is not what it is, right? And somebody asked, Ratna Guru asked, what is the term weakness? Okay, so weakness is not. I've never used the term weakness anywhere. And if you consciously, I've never used, because I never use it term. I always say that it is an area of improvement. Okay. So the weakness was a question which they asked you. That's what I meant was, if somebody asks you what is your weakness, that's what it means. So when you say weakness there, it means that there is a, more of an attitudinal weakness. Okay. Or like, you can't say, you should not be saying my weakness is sweets or my weakness is movies. That is not what the weakness which they're implying. They're implying something connected to your profession. Okay. So that is what it means there. Yeah, Sonia, thanks for adding that experience from Bobme and Heishio. So Sonia was with me there, and we were all together part of the team. Steven is also there. Glad to know Steven is there. Okay.
Yeah, Vijitra has posted the question again in the chat. Will you please check it?
Last, is it again?
Yeah, last 4 questions.
Just the following post. Your perspective on the ATS friendly CV, which will help you. Okay, I've answered regarding the ATS. I've already answered that question. Can you please share some examples on how you gracefully justify a gap in employment or an education backlog? I answered that too. Then can you please share some examples of areas of appreciation and areas of improvement which do not fit cliche? Okay, so see, in an interview, you are actually projecting yourself. It is so there is nothing cliched there, right? It is something that is you are trying to tell the person of things that they are not aware, because that's only time that you got to explain it to them. So don't feel that it is being cliched. So if you're good at people skills, if you're good at handling multiple cross section of people, people who are from, let's say, if you're able to handle the housekeeping staff, you're able to handle the leads, you're able to handle the junior staff, you're able to handle the middle staff, you're able to handle the C-suite. You can handle everything very comfortably. That is a great skill. So those are the strengths that you have. So that is what is the areas that you need to, you need to focus on and build on. Stitch a story around that. Fine. And there are some areas like weaknesses which somebody's asked are areas that is improvement. See, for instance, I gave an example of my own where that, the sense of being perfect. Okay, there is, in the sense of being perfect, if you're doing a job and then you're able to do 90% of the job, then if you have to spend, if you're spending 90% of the job for 2 hours, in 2 hours you're able to do that job in 90% of the time. But if you're spending another 3 hours for doing the 10% to take it to 100%, then it's not worth it. I'll explain this once again. If you're doing a job which takes 90% of the completion or the quality, and that's in 2 hours, then to complete it, to make it 100%, that 10%, if you're going to take 3 hours, then it's not worth being perfect, right? So that is what it's meant by, being perfect. So that was a weakness for me. So that's how I managed to overcome that. Okay, that sense of rigid perfectness. You don't need that. You actually don't need it. Can you please share some insights into the biases that may occur from the interviewers and similar to the confirmation? This is a topic which is very vast. I do not want to take it. We're almost about 1.5 hours now. I will take this on if as a separate topic, maybe on a session. If we have time, we can do that. Okay. Okay.
All right. So I would like to express our profound gratitude to our speaker, Prem Was, for this wonderful session. Thank you, Prem Was, for throwing some insights in deep sense in an interview and interviewee and interviewer perspective. And I would like to extend a special thanks to all the participants here in this webinar. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.